So what I want to do is just first of all say good morning. And, I think that's a good way to start a presentation with a little bit of technical difficulty, because what I think the thing I can say to you right away is when you decide to go into government contracting, things don't always go the way you expect. So you're going to encounter some twists and turns. But, that's what really makes it interesting doing business with the government, because every day is going to be different. And I think that keeps us on our toes. So we're going to get started. And here's what we're going to do today. And this will be of particular benefit to those who are just starting out, or if maybe you've been in the government contracting world for a few months or years. But really, what I would recommend is there's a constant change in the requirements. There's a constant change in how you may do registrations. So you always need to kind of dial it back or hit reverse once in a while and doing a review just to go over those basic things. And this is what we're going to try to do. So we'll try to cover the following objectives. We'll try to introduce the registrations required for selling to the government. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to stair step. We'll start with local, then we'll move along to state, then we'll move along to the federal government and talk about different registrations. We'll also introduce state and federal procurement processes. Here's the thing, all those processes are different. So again, you have to stay on your toes. You have to constantly review. And also the PTAC is always here as a point of reference if you run across something that you're not familiar with or something that's changed. Again, we can help you out. And then we're going to introduce some different government contracts. And we'll look at some things a little bit more in depth. And then some of those things we'll cover kind of like a periphery or kind of hover over the surface, so to speak. But what I want to do is I want to kind of set our theme for what we're going to do this morning. So let's watch a short video.
सर आपके लिए उस पार कार का इंतजाम किया है सर। सर आइए सर प्लीज। ये चल चल जाओ बोला क्या बात करता है, क्या ऊपर से जाएगा, क्या ऊपर से जा जा
गया मेन शो।
I hate this country. कुछ करो ना।
मैं वहां जाके क्या उखाड़ लूंगा।
कैसी जाने बूंदे आई, जाने कैसा दर्द लाई, सामने क्या है ये तेरे, क्यों रुका है तू बता दे हो। तुझको पार लेगा, कौन होगा वो मसीहा, वो जिसे तू ढूंढता है वो ही है तू वही है। तुझ में तेरा रास्ता है, तुझ में तेरा है सहारा, तू ही तुझको पार लेगा, तू ही है तेरा किनारा। तुझ में तेरा रास्ता है, तुझ में तेरा है सहारा, तू ही तुझको पार लेगा, तू ही है तेरा किनारा। जिसे ढूंढता है तू ही रहे, तू ही रहे, तू ही रहे तेरा मसीहा हो।
Okay, so basically here's why I wanted to share this video with you. Okay, just to give you a little background, is the little boy with the backpack. That is every small business. You look at what you want to do and you look at the direction you want to go, and you stand before a formidable object or obstacles. And listen, I don't care what that obstacle is, whether that's an organization, whether that's a person, whether that's a system. Here's the thing, drop the backpack, put your hands to it, put your strength to it. And then here's the thing, the other small children that came up beside the young man initially, that's your friends, that's your family, that's people who are going to support you. But understand this, a lot of times friends and family, that emotional and that mental support to encourage you and to exhort you, those things are good, but they may not have what you need to move the tree, so to speak, and to be able to clear that path for your business. So you saw pretty much everybody from every sector, from every section, men, women, everybody is there and they help. And what happens? The tree gets moved, the obstacle is out of the way, and then everybody is joyful. So here's the thing. There are a lot of government agencies that you don't have to pay. You don't have to invest so far as your hard-earned dollars to get them to help you. There's a lot of government agencies just like the PTAC, just like the SBA, just like the Arkansas Small Business Technology Development Center. We're here to help you move the tree, so to speak, so you can start down that pathway. And here's the thing, you've got to find your path. As a small business, you can look around and you can use others kind of like as an example or to emulate, or maybe, well, hey, I can use that or I can do that. But really when it comes down to it, your business is unique, even if it's like others. So what you want to do is you want to ask yourself 3 questions. Question number 1 is this: where am I? Where am I? Am I at the point where I just have an idea? I just have a thought? I really don't have a business yet, but I have a strong idea. This is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it. So where am I? So you always have to have that point of reference to know where you are. That's going to be this. Okay, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be? Do I just want to make enough revenue maybe to support my family? Or do I want to make enough revenue so that my business becomes more business? Hey, I have 1 location, but I want 2. I have 2, but I want 3. So where do you want to go? In other words, so 2 things in mind: know where you are, know where you want to go. And then the last question you're going to ask yourself is, what will I do to get there? Okay, how do I get from point A to point B? And again, every journey is going to be different. Every path is going to be different. And as a small business, I would just encourage you to understand this. Some trees are bigger than others. So it's going to take more time, more effort, more help, more assistance. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. You just keep plugging away. You just keep pushing the issues. And again, we all know sometimes we come up against something and it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to get rid of it, get around it. But if you keep looking, there's people out there that want you to be successful and they're going to help you. So kind of with that in mind, so far as a pathway, one of the first things you want to do maybe is stop by the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. And basically when you look at what they do, look at what they do. They do market research, licenses and permits, taxes, legal structures, funding, business planning, home-based businesses, do's and don'ts of starting a business, frequently asked questions. On your pathway, this is a good starting point because they can really be helpful in counseling you. Okay, maybe what's the next step? Or maybe, hey, you've got to slow down. You got to develop this or that a little bit more before you step out there in the arena. But what I would say is this, because of the virus, because of all the things economically, every agency, it seems, is a little bit overwhelmed. So what I would ask you to do, if you are in that position where you're just starting out, you got an idea, you're just getting your feet on the ground, if you try to contact them, just be very patient because a lot of agencies have been tasked to do more than one function. So they're trying to help a lot of people with a lot of different issues. But listen, they're an excellent place to start, especially if you have an idea. Hey, this is what I want to do. Is it plausible? Is that goal attainable? So on your pathway, they may be your first step. Second step may be the Arkansas Secretary of State's office. And again, this is something where, legally you've got to decide, okay, am I sole proprietor? If I'm a sole proprietor, do I still want to register through the Secretary of State? But am I a corporation, LLC, whatever you might be? One of your first stops probably is going to be with Arkansas Secretary of State to be registered in the state of Arkansas. In the slide you see, doing business in Arkansas, over to your right-hand side. That's an excellent resource. It's actually a booklet that you can download from the Secretary of State's office. And that way, if you want a personal copy on your computer, your iPad, or you just want to download and print out that copy, again, it tries to walk you through, okay, based on your type of small business, okay, what do I do? What's my next step? You know, what type of documentation I have to have. So they may be step number 2 on your journey, on your pathway. The third step is actually coming to the PTAC. And one of the things that we like to say is, listen, your success is our success. You know, if you succeed, then automatically the PTAC looks good and we can prove our point because we're sponsored by a grant from the Defense Logistics Agency. So again, our job is to prove that we're helping you. So when you do something, when you accomplish something, we're proud as parents because we know that maybe we had a part in that. And Miss Melanie is our program manager. We have 5 counselors. We have an inordinate amount of experience. And when I say an inordinate amount of experience, it doesn't mean that we're old. I mean, you can tell by our photographs how good we look, that we're still young and vibrant. But we have 5 counselors. And look, we don't just try to do it on our own. If there's a question, if there's something you need, we will call each other, then we will call someone else. We work together, we're a team. If you can't get in touch with me, you get in touch with Max or Deborah or Liz or Betty Lou. But Deborah covers the Northeast, Max covers the Northwest, and then the Larry, Moe, and Curly group down there at the bottom, Betty Lou, Liz, and Tim, we cover the Central and then the rest of the state. But again, our job is to help you and to assist you. And we're more than happy to do that. And I think if you ask any of the 5 counselors, you know, a lot of people don't have fun when they help people. But I can definitely say we have a good time. We have a lot of fun. And you are the most important thing that we do, each and every small business and each and every client. So what do we do as a PTAC? Number 1, we can help you with federal and state registrations and certifications. You know, if it's paperwork and it has to do with registrations, we can assist you. Again, we don't do anything associated with grants and loans. However, we can try to find a referral for you because here's the thing, we don't want you being a yo-yo. We don't want you to have to go back and forth between agencies or individuals. We want to find you someone somewhere who's going to be able to help you. Second thing we can do, we can talk to you about federal and state marketing strategies. In other words, you know, how do you reach out? How do you make your small business known? You know, what do I need to do? Who do I need to call? Who do I need to email? And a lot of times that's some of the hardest part of it is, you know who you are, you know what you do a good job, but how do I let people know what is my business? How well I do that business. So we help you with that. We can also help you to use the bid matching and websites to find opportunities. And look, we have a lot of fun doing that too. We're looking at bids all the time. And what we do is we look at bids in the light of, okay, who do we have as a client that can do that particular job, who can put in for that particular bid? And here's the neat thing. I don't just look at my clients. Max doesn't just look at his clients. All the counselors are looking at, okay, who do we have? And it doesn't matter who the counselor is. Is there somebody out there that we could, hey, go look at that and see if you want to place a bid on it? And the next thing we can do is interpret solicitations. Again, if you've looked at a federal solicitation before, number 1, I always reach for Tylenol because federal solicitations sometimes can give you a pretty good headache right from the very beginning. I'm the kind of person, you know, I like crayons and things to color, and there's no pictures in federal solicitations. So look, we get paid to go through those things and to help you out. And here's the thing, it is not what you see in a solicitation that's going to get you, that's going to cause you issues. What you don't see in the solicitation is what's going to catch you by the coattail, so to speak, you know, and cause you some type of issue or, hey, I didn't see that in the bid. You know, that part of our job is to help you see those small things sometimes and to make sure as a team that you get a full idea of what that solicitation entails, what's my scope of work, what's the requirements for me to respond. And then the last thing we can do proposal reviews. We can't help you with the pricing. You know, we can't help you with the pricing. In other words, you know, we can't say, well, hey, you know, if I were you, I would go at $50 a square foot or something like that. However, what we can do in the proposal itself, we can look at the numbers and see, if there's any kind of mathematical error. Was there a number or an estimate you were supposed to submit that you haven't submitted or filled in that section? But we can't actually give you numbers. So what do we expect from you as the clients? Here's the thing. If we're going to give our heart and our soul to you as a small business, we're just asking a few things in return, and this is what they are. Your primary business should be located in Arkansas. However, if it's not, it doesn't mean that we won't help you. It means that we're going to find somebody in that particular state who can help you, another PTAC, and we are all over the place in every state. We cover territories, so wherever that business is, we can help out. Complete the agree to receive PTAC clients services form. So basically, again, we have to track things. We operate based on a grant, so documentation is very important to us. So just make sure you fill that out. Be a viable contractor and supplier or capable of becoming one. In other words, you're at the point where you can actually do something. Maybe you can't do it on a large or grand scale, but you can do it on a small scale. And look, we want you to grow and to prosper. So we ask you to do that. Actively pursue bid opportunities. Here's the thing. Don't do an inordinate amount of registrations and paperwork, and then that's it. Well, hey, I have a business. I'm I'm registered with the government. I'm registered with the state. Don't leave it at that. Pursue. And here's the thing. Probably nobody's going to have a solicitation dropped in their lap and, wow, that much for me. And then they're going to go, you're just the one I'm looking for. And then everything falls into place. You may go through several solicitations, but eventually you're going to encounter some level of success, and you just keep building on that success. So we want you to pursue those things. Report all federal, state, and local awards received. So if you would, what we call them on our end is this. We call them success stories. So whether you get a small contract or maybe one that would be considered medium, or hey, you won the lottery, so to speak, all right, and you're going to do that one job and retire to the Caribbean, but not now, not until the storms pass by. Listen, we want to hear about that, and you share that with us, and we're going to be happy for you. Okay, so why the PTAC? I think if you look at the numbers I have on the slide, it speaks for itself. Listen, our job is your job. And when you look at those numbers, when you look at the amount of awards in dollars, and then you look at the jobs created or retained, you're looking at what the PTAC is all about. The PTAC is all about helping you be successful. If we help you be successful, then the state of Arkansas is going to be successful. And again, that's going to attract even more business, more opportunities to Arkansas. So that's what we're here for. So again, the PTAC is here to assist you. So what would be your next stop on your pathway, so to speak? Here's the thing I would recommend. I would encourage you, by all means, go to the SBA website. By all means, read up on all those different subjects that affect small businesses. But here's the thing I would encourage you to do before you actually approach the SBA is, have everything in place that they will need to help you, to assist you. Same thing, every entity I've spoken of so far, their whole existence is all about making you successful. But the SBA can only help you at the point of where you've got those things in place where they can move forward with you. They want to walk with you. They want to help you, but you have to be registered in SAM. You have to have, have the DUNS number, have all those things registered in SAM, and then be ready to go. And then there's all sorts of ways that the Small Business Administration can assist you. And listen, they're going to be as happy as they can be to do that, but be ready before you try to make contact and sit down with them, because you don't want for the SBA to say, well, hey, you got to go back and complete this task and then move forward. So the thing about it is, depending on what your pathway is, okay, where am I? Where do I want to be? Okay, how do I get from point A to point B? You can be successful. In some cases, the sky's going to be the limit. You look at different people, you look at different businesses, and once upon a time, it was one person and they had a vehicle and they had a dream or they had a vision, and the next thing you know, they have hundreds or thousands of employees. So a lot of that is going to be, the brunt is going to be on your shoulders so far as how far you want to push your business. But again, there's a lot of opportunities out there. So I encourage you to look at all those different entities who can help you along the way and help you along your pathway as a small business. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about registrations required to sell into the government. And I know, we've just gone through kind of some initial information, but what we want to do is several times today, we will stop and just want to find out if anybody might have a question at this point before we move on to actually talking about the different registrations.
Tim, I'm not seeing anything in the chat box at this point, so I'm sure we're going to have some unwinder in this next session.
All righty, so let's move forward. We're going to talk about registrations. And again, we're going to talk about it from the bottom to the top. We're going to start with registrations required for cities, and we're going to use the city of Little Rock for an example. So a couple of things I want to mention as we go into this. Okay, I ran into an interesting situation. Okay, if you are within the city limits of Little Rock and you're a business, okay, understand this, according to the city of Little Rock, if you're operating within city limits, you have to get a business license. So what I would encourage you to do is visit the city of Little Rock website if you're located within the city limits or wherever you are, and make sure there's nothing out there that's going to slow you down, or you get to a certain point and you go, uh-oh, because what I've seen, and I've seen it in the past couple of weeks, is someone had a business, they're operating that business, but they don't have a business license in accordance with the standards and the regulations of the city. So it's very important, make sure that you build on your registrations, make sure you build on those things that you have to complete. And listen, what we will do on our end, if you contact us, we'll try to help you and make sure that you're not doing anything that you shouldn't be doing, that you go back. And again, a business license, go read up on that if you're within the city of Little Rock. If you're within another city limits, go to your city website and look and see what the requirements are, because you don't want someone showing up while you're trying to conduct business and say, may I please see your business license? You don't want that. The next thing with the city of Little Rock, listen, if you want to look at the bids for the city of Little Rock, by all means, you can do that. However, if you want to bid with the city of Little Rock, if you want to do business with the city of Little Rock, they're just like the state and federal government. You have to register, and I just have a screenshot for you, and you can see the vendor login. But in order to do the vendor login, there's a little area underneath with new users to register. Click here. And again, what's going to happen is the city of Little Rock, and probably most cities, they're going to ask for all those basic information things. They're going to ask for your tax ID number. They're going to ask for maybe a copy of your W-9. So understand, start local, find out, make sure there's nothing registration-wise or license-wise that you have to have, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're moving forward and you've got to stop and actually walk back to complete a step that was earlier in the process. So again, I encourage you to do your research. We'll try to help you as much as we can, but each city, each area may have distinct and individual rules or registrations that have to be required. All right, so far as the state of Arkansas, if you want to do business with the state, a vendor registration, here's the thing, with the state of Arkansas, you don't have to have a vendor registration number to complete a bid. However, you will have to be registered with the state of Arkansas to receive an award. In other words, if you go to the state website and you look at a bid and you don't have a vendor number, you're not a registered vendor, you can still bid on that. It's just that by the time the award is given, you have to have your vendor registration number, and you have to be ready to go. And that vendor registration number, it's a 9-digit number, the Arkansas Administrative Statewide Information System. Okay, and that's called ACES for short. When I was a state employee, we had other nicknames for ACES. Not many of them were nice. It's a huge system that the state uses, but ACES is a good system. It retains a lot of information. Your registration is tied to the online bid notification system. So if you want to receive those automatic email bids through the state website, then that's one of the things you're going to have is have that number. Vendor registration must be renewed annually. You know, one of the things that you think about is, okay, is there any cost? Well, there's a $25 fee to be able to be registered with the state. And here's the thing, and I think what's happened probably in the last 6 months to a year, the state of Arkansas has completed a major overhaul from 40 agencies to 15. Okay, as part of that overhaul, the Office of State Procurement, which was previously under the Department of Finance and Administration, they are actually under the transformation agency now. So a lot of things are changing, a lot of websites are changing. So you may go to the state procurement website and it just doesn't look like it used to, but here's what it looks like now. And I've got on the screen the vendor tab and the vendor registration tab. The difference between those tabs is, one, if you click on vendors, it's going to give you a whole laundry list of information or links that might be helpful to you as a vendor. If you click on the vendor registration tab, that's simply going to take you directly to the system where you can register as a vendor. So that's the difference when you look at it. There's a lot of helpful information. I would encourage you to go to the vendors tab first. And then also within that vendors tab is a link to vendor registration. Again, $25 fee, Visa, MasterCard, e-check. Registration fees can be waived for certified minority and women-owned businesses. So you would definitely want to check into that. And look, you know, some people would go, well, hey, it's only $25. Well, listen, last time I checked, $25 is still $25. So you don't, listen, my rule is for you. If you could take one thing from me is never spend money you don't have to. You want to make money, not spend money. So just kind of keep that in mind. All the vendors must submit a W-9 to the Office of State Procurement in order to register. And also your business name, your federal ID, your social security number must match the IRS records. And again, sometimes there's some issues with that, but I would encourage you, you know, when you receive that information from the Internal Revenue Service, make sure that you put it in a place where you can easily find it. And that way you can make sure all your registrations, you're using the same names, the same entity names, whether it's taxes or Dun & Bradstreet. But that's the state. And then one of the things that's kind of unusual about the state, you know, because nothing's ever easy, the state doesn't use the North American Industry Classification System codes, the NAICS or NIACS. They use material group numbers. All right. So when you go into the system to register, it won't be set up on a NAICS or a NIACS system. It will be on a 5-digit system, you know, just like some of the other systems. And then you're going to choose material groups, services, and you're going to identify those as what you do or what you can do. And then you select those material groups. And if you select to have the automatic emails, then if a bid is a certain amount, you'll receive an email that bid's been posted publicly. And there's no limit to the number of material groups a vendor can select. So you can, just like with NAICS and SAM, you can choose as pretty much as many codes, material group numbers as you would like. Here's another thing. All right, the same thing as, you know, going back to that example for the Little Rock business, having that business license. Okay, sometimes you have to make sure you register for the sales and use tax. And again, you don't want to be in business, you're actually making some money, and then all of a sudden you find out, I was supposed to go back and do that. So you need to check that website, sales and use tax. You know, just read the information and make sure this is something. And the same thing, it's a registration. I don't think that it's too difficult, but please, you know, check all these different things to make sure that legally there's nothing that you're doing that is going to cause you any grief in the future. Just be diligent. You know, if you think there's something, by all means, get in contact with us as your counselors, and we'll try to help you navigate that. In one case, we did make some phone calls, we did make some emails, send out some emails just to make sure what the requirement was. But that's another thing that has to do with the state of Arkansas, that you want to make sure you're not doing something that would be considered illegal. Okay, so far as registration is required for the federal government, and again, you know, I'm kind of moving rapidly through this, but my intent is to kind of give you a broad overview of all these things. because we can fill in the blanks later and we can take more time and effort as we meet individually. So let's talk a little bit about the registrations required for the federal government. One of the things I would tell you about the federal government, it's like alphabet soup. For everything, almost there's an acronym. You got EIN, you got DUNS, you got NAICS, you got SAM, you got DIBS, all these different things. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. And, I don't think the federal government did it intentionally, but sometimes we're tortured by those acronyms. Again, it's like a bowl of alphabet soup trying to separate the letters and figure out what in the world are they talking about. So if you're going to register in the System for Award Management, affectionately known as SAM, and what I would tell you is this: SAM can be the most wonderful friend you have, or SAM can be the biggest pain in your southern hemisphere. You go into SAM and sometimes, listen, you just breeze through those screens and all the world is happy, the sun's shining, the birds are singing. And then sometimes you'll go into SAM and it will just aggravate you to no end. Again, be patient. The government itself, the federal government, is trying to navigate and bring together different websites. So a couple of things. Of course, you're going to have your information with the IRS. Make sure you've got an EIN, depending on how you're structured. When you go into SAM, you can also use your Social Security number. But I know some people are I've seen people do that, but some people are very uncomfortable with doing that. So make sure you have your tax information available and ready. And your Dun & Bradstreet number. If you don't have one, then you can have one created, or in some cases, you have one already, you just don't know it. So we have a direct line to Dun & Bradstreet. We can call them up. We can check and see if you have one. If you don't, we can make sure that you have one created. It takes about 24 to 48 hours for that to cycle through. And then you're going to have to know what your NAICS codes are. Well, hey, what's the code for how I do business? And then, of course, you're going to have your bank account information. And I'm going to throw a little caution flag real quick for you, okay? Listen, unfortunately, trust is something that has to be verified, okay? So I will give you an example. We had a business that their SAM expired years ago, but we found it, we brought it forward, created a new login account number, and we're going through the SAM, getting it updated and everything. And then we get to the financial, the banking information. And the owner of the business said, "That's not my bank account." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean it's not your bank account?" He said, "That's not my routing number. That's not my bank account. That's not my account number." And he said, "In fact, I don't think we've ever had that account number." So the moral of the story is this: there was an employee who left the company who actually their responsibility was to maintain the SAM. Well, to this day, we still haven't figured out whose bank account number that was, but it wasn't the business. So again, it's up to you. If you have a business, protect that business. Go in, review your SAM, make sure there's nothing that seems out of place. And even if it's a Secretary of State, wherever you have your information in a public forum or platform, every so often, go back in, check it, validate it, verify it. And then one more example before I move on, Dun & Bradstreet. All right, sounds pretty simple, right? So we're doing a Dun & Bradstreet update. There's a couple of things we need to correct about the business name, the phone number, and all those things. So we have the client, we have Dun & Bradstreet on the phone, and guess what? Someone had created a Dun & Bradstreet for themselves using the name of his business, but the contact name and the contact number were totally different. He didn't recognize the person's name. He didn't recognize the phone number, but somebody was out there with a Dun & Bradstreet number with his business name, but not his name on it, and a different phone number to call in reference to that business. So again, those things you have to check and make sure. All right, so far as the IRS, you can go and you can do that online. Again, there's a lot of systems that are overloaded. Again, I think, everything pretty much you can do online. And I think the expectation is going to be more and more that you do those registrations, even if it's the IRS. So you can apply for an employer identification number online. Be prepared, have all the things you might need to do that. And then again, understand this, if there's an issue with that number, then you're going to have to call someone. That someone may require additional proof or information from you. So it can be, a process, so be very patient. So, but the EIN, you can do that online at your convenience. Okay, as far as the NAICS codes and the Dun & Bradstreet, again, the PTAC has a direct line to Dun & Bradstreet. And also, we can help you search for those NAICS or those NAICS codes. We use a couple of different systems, and you can see the screenshots up there. United States Census provides an engine for you to search for your NAICS codes, and then you also have the NAICS Association. We've used both, but it's a good way to do research, find out what's out there. And the only thing I would say about your NAICS code, remember your NAICS code is an umbrella. It's an umbrella that covers a multitude of tasks. So even though the initial NAICS code doesn't seem to cover you, just drill down into those searches, and I'm pretty sure you're going to find what you do and that it'll be covered. Again, with the Dun & Bradstreet, what I recommend, go to Dun & Bradstreet, do a little search. And at this point, yellow caution flag. Okay, Dun & Bradstreet, it has two functions, all right? And remember this. Okay, function number one, Dun & Bradstreet is a private company. And private company for profit, so their job is to make money. So they are going to offer financial services. All right, it has nothing to do directly with your DUNS number. You can get a DUNS number, and you get that DUNS number. We can help you to get it, but it's a separate thing. Dun & Bradstreet has a contract with the federal government to perform that function. But if they contact you at a later date offering financial services or different things as a service to you, those things are going to have a fee, and that has nothing to do with what we're doing as far as your registrations with the federal government. All right, so we get to the system for award management, and this is the page where you're probably going to start. In the upper right-hand corner, you see the yellow box and the login. All right, entities must have an active registration in SAM to do business with the U.S. government. In other words, you have to have all this information completed, an approved registration, and then you'll be issued a CAGE code. Again, commercial and governmental entity code. All right, only individuals who are authorized to represent a particular entity or individuals representing themselves as an entity may register in SAM. Again, I implore you, go look at these different websites and just search your own business. And if it comes up, there may be somebody out there that had the same idea or has the same name, but, follow that out, make sure there's nothing out there that's malicious in content or purpose. All right, the PTAC Assist will help you as much as we can. You can do it yourself. When you learn to do things, we had a client about a week ago, and she said, well, hey, I'll do it. And, we shared screens, and she did the registration. And listen, we are so proud of everybody when they can navigate those systems and they get comfortable. But if you need assistance, we're there also. But look, we're happy when you can navigate those things and do some things on your own. It just means you're maturing as a business. And that means that we did our job. We helped you grow and understand those processes. All right, and I have one on there that says pay as you go, and I have it lined through. Listen, all right, come to me, and for a small fee, I will set you free. Here's the thing. You're going to have a lot of people, and they're going to say, well, hey, I can get you a government contract. I can make sure that you're successful. I'll be your best friend. Here's the thing. If you've got to pay somebody to be your best friend, I don't think they're your best friend. So if someone contacts you by telephone or email, and they say wonderful and marvelous things, and that you're going to be rich and famous and all these other things, just cut to the chase and just ask them one question. Okay, so for me to be rich and famous and to have millions of contracts, what's it going to cost me? All right. And don't let them keep giving the sales pitch. Just say, okay, so what you're telling me, you'll help me, but I have to pay you. And then that's when hey, thank you very much. I appreciate your time and effort. This call has now been ended. And then, have a nice day. All right. And then you have the link for SAM down at the bottom. And again, you'll get a copy of the slides. So you'll have all the links to visit. All right, here's something that's kind of unique about your SAM registration. And a lot of people sometimes miss this. Okay, when you receive your initial email where it says that you've submitted your SAM registration, okay, probably item number 5. Item number 5 is just going to be the small thing that says you have to submit a notarized letter. Okay, and a lot of times we miss it, and we'll ask, okay, did you do your notarized letter? Well, what notarized letter? Well, this is a screenshot of the notarized letter. And again, it's going to give you directions. There's a couple of templates you have to choose from. You have to fill this out. You have to fill it out exactly as they say. No deviation, no graphics. Don't try to add to it. Just fill in the information. And again, just make sure that everything's signed. Make sure you get it notarized. If you do get it notarized, I've seen it a couple of times, make sure that you sign it. Make sure that your notary signs it before you send it off. And here's the thing. You can only use the U.S. Postal Service to mail this notarized letter. No FedEx, no UPS, and then even when you use the USPS, no registered, no receipt mail, just a nice flower stamp on the front of it, and you pop it in the mailbox, and then that's the way they want it because it's a verification and validation process, and we can help you too with that notarized letter. Okay, after you do SAM and you kind of settle down, in SAM, right before you get to the submit page, there's just a one page. It's not very, there's not a whole lot on it, but it has a tab where you can go into an SBA site called the Dynamic Small Business Search. Listen, this is very important. So you need to go back in, make sure that's all completed. One of the most important things in the Dynamic Small Business Search is your capability statement about what you do, how you do it, kind of thing. So I encourage you, once you have your SAM, once you have that registration completed, you have your cage code, either you or ask the counselor to go back in with you and complete that Dynamic Small Business Search profile. That's very important because people on the federal government side are going to use that to search and look for you. All right. And here's the thing, we look all the time, and what we find is somebody's in there that they never put in the capabilities. I've asked several people to include Betty Lou, who worked for the Corps of Engineers, and she was on that side. What she said is this: when she went looking for companies, if she went into the Dynamic Small Business Search and the capabilities section was not filled in, she automatically disregarded that company because they didn't complete and show her all the information. Very, very important. Okay, there's other registrations you might have to do, and I know, it's almost like, picking up grains of sand. You get a little bucket full and then you find out there's another mountain. There's all sorts of registrations that you might run into. One would be DIBS, and that's another method whereby the federal government can do and post solicitations, but you're going to have a separate registration for DIBS. You're also, the Joint Certification Program is another registration. A lot of times it applies to manufacturing in particular. But I want to tell you something, and the federal government, I think they're easily bored, so they do things to entertain themselves. So, a lot of this stuff has to do with information that's sensitive. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a solicitation that was for lawn care. All right, lawn care. Well, to put in a bid or to even see all the documents for lawn care, you had to do some of these additional registrations. So, and you had to do that to even see all the information to be able to bid and to be able to respond. So you never know how they're going to deem that solicitation as being, and in this case, it happened to be maps of a facility. All right. So again, don't be surprised if you're going to have to do an additional registration, create a login, have another password, but we can help you with those also. And one of the things I'll mention about DIBS, DIBS has a little tricky thing. You go into DIBS and you register, but they're going to stop you part way and they're going to send you a postcard. All right. Anybody remember what a postcard is? It's that little thing, but they're going to send you a postcard. And on the back of that postcard is going to have a code. You take the code, you go back into DIBS, and then they let you finish your registration. So that's kind of unusual. But again, that's to help with authentication and validation of what the company is. All right, so That was, you know, a lot of information about registrations. We're going to talk a little bit about state and federal procurement processes. So before I go on, and so that I can take a little breath from speed talking, does anybody have any questions on the registrations before we move to the next section?
Kim, we do. And also, for those of you who came in a little bit late, because I know Tim just went through a wealth of information and resources, just be assured we will be sending his slides out. And I think, Tim, you've got hyperlinks, right, to a lot of these websites and resources. So you don't have to be, you know, madly trying to copy down those URLs. So the first question, and this is going to go back to your slide on licenses and permits. I am located in Cleveland County. Is there a business license for the county?
No, I'm not sure on the county. Normally what I would do in that case, if you're in a county like Cleveland County, I would just check in with the courthouse and make sure. And here's the thing, you know, what I would say, Arkansas is still a pretty rural state. And sometimes, you know, there may not be a website, or the website's not going to be as complicated as maybe the city of Little Rock or Bentonville and those places. So sometimes, and it's a good thing, you may just have to get on the phone and you call. You know, I can give you an example. I used to have to call Miss Linda down in Lincoln County, and Miss Linda would, you know, tell me what I needed to know. So, and that's a good thing, because if you're in a county, it's always good to get to know those people that maybe at some point they can be a help to you. But I would say the best thing to do is just check in with the county courthouse and make sure that there's no license or registration or anything that they might require of you as a resident of the county to complete.
Hey, Tim, can I add something to that?
Yeah, Kim, go ahead.
There usually is not a county-specific business license, but as Tim said, I would go ahead and check with your county, but like I said, there's usually not county-specific business licenses in Arkansas.
Yeah, maybe more pertinent would be the license typically are more likely to be associated with the municipality or town. So whatever town you're residing in would be probably a second stop to get that information. Okay, the next question is, and I'm not sure this is in light of what you were talking about getting a business license, or whether it's in the context of registering as a vendor. So you might address both scenarios. What about businesses that do not have any physical office in that city?
Okay, and they don't have a physical office within the state?
Within the city. So
within the city.
I'm not sure if this is vendor registration or business license. I'm not clear on the context for that question.
Okay, well, I think, you know, number one, if you're not located within the city, you know, of course, you know, those things may not apply or wouldn't apply to you. But what I would say is this: anytime you're going to go in a public arena, you're going to have a business, you know, I don't care how small it is, you never want to be in a position where you're already taking money from people as part of your business, and then you find out something is amiss, or you don't want to put yourself in that position because you don't want any negative reflection on you nor your business. And again, what I would say with the city, with the county, with the state, you know, always make sure that, you know, due diligence. Hey, I went through and I checked as many sources as I could. And here's the other thing. The other thing that I think that is a good idea to touch base with the city, the county, you know, different people in the state, is you never know, okay, somebody may be able to help me. Somebody, oh, wow, you do that? Well, hey, we need that. Or I was just talking to somebody the other day who might need that. So even if you don't find out there's a legality involved, again, you know, having a small business, you know, some of that networking, some of that getting to know people all over the place. Don't ever forget that you're in business. If you ever forget that you're in business, then you'll lose business. So, you know, do that checking. Yeah, it takes time. but just make sure there's no legalities that you have to fulfill, because you don't want any negative impact on your business later by someone saying, well, hey, I'm not going to use them because, they were in trouble for. You just want to stay positive, stay upbeat. Don't let anything reflect negatively on your business.
Okay, and the next question goes to the sales and use tax. I do business only online. I've noticed that when I use e-platforms such as Etsy, they are not charging taxes on my sales. I want to check, does Arkansas have taxes on online sales?
Okay, one of the things, I'm not going to speak to something I'm not extremely familiar with, but in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of fodder back and forth, about taxes on internet sales. So what I would do is, just to be safe, because I don't know, there is I think Amazon, there was, some conversation back and forth between the state of Arkansas, Amazon and people like that, or entities like that. But I think it's a very sensitive issue. But I think, again, I would contact those state offices and just make sure, because the instance that I'm referring to as my example, the business was already selling product within the city limits. They were already selling their product. I mean, they were advertising that they had this product, they're selling it. And then I don't know for how long, but you don't need that where I have to put this thing in reverse. And you don't want negative impact. But I would check with the state and just make sure of what the legalities are. And probably the first place to stop would be the Secretary of State's office. And even if they don't answer the question directly, then they can head you in the right direction as to which particular office to speak to make sure you're not doing anything out of turn.
Great, and I'm just going to weigh in from having owned a business and counseled a lot of small businesses. The Department of Finance and Administration Revenue Office does not play. So I would say be proactive about, getting in front of them. If it turns out that you need to be collecting taxes, they will get you set up on their system for doing it. Okay, now let's jump to federal. Are you ready, Tim?
All right.
Okay, regarding SAM, where would I have seen the notarized letter request? I've submitted the registration and currently in progress.
Okay, so normally what's going to happen is, SAM or Cage is going to send you emails. Again, one of the key indications is it's a legitimate email, is you're not going to see any graphics. You're not going to see any falderall nor fiddly-dee. It's just going to be text. So in that initial email where you receive notification that you have successfully submitted your registration, normally if you'll look, and again, the last one I looked at, it was item number 5. And item number 5 briefly explains the requirement for submission of the notarized letter. You're going to have 60 days from the time that you receive your Cage code. In other words, from the time you're finished with SAM and you have your Cage code issued, you have 60 days to submit that notarized letter. But it should be item 5 in that initial email that you receive saying that you have submitted your registration.
Great. And then we have one more question, I think, and then we'll move on to the next section. Should I just register for DIBS and JCP in case I need them? That's part 1. And then part 2 is, do you have to renew any of the registrations?
Okay, normally, just like with SAM, it's an annual thing. What I recommend is, I can give you an example. We had a company that hadn't been active for a while and their DIBS expired, for example. The DIBS expired, so we had to go back through that. And here's the thing, if somebody registered and did DIBS or JCP, a lot of times the information within those systems is not up to date. It may be somebody who retired, maybe somebody who quit, maybe somebody who was fired. So I would constantly, at least, annually go back to all those systems, go into them, make sure all the information is current, make sure that there's no requirement. We know SAM has an annual requirement, but I would advise going in maybe a month and a half prior to those expirations or your annual or your anniversary date, and just checking those systems and making sure.
All right, we'll move on to the next section. And so if you have follow-up questions regarding what Tim just answered, or you have new questions that come up as he proceeds, just drop them in the chat box and we will do our best to get to them.
All right, so state and federal procurement processes, according to the state procurement processes, a small order, is up to $20,000, and basically I can just make a phone call on that one. If it's $20,000 to $75,000, I have to do three, according to state law, I have to attempt to get 3 quote bids. All right, attempt, the key is attempt. If I don't get 3, whatever I get, whoever's lowest, they get the job. And that's $20,000 to $75,000. And then competitive sealed bids and proposals, that's the invitation for bids and the response or RFP. That's where you have to submit a proposal a little bit more in depth. That's $75,000 or more. The only time you're going to see something out of that norm is going to be if it's something sensitive in nature, so far as a solicitation, or it's been political in the past, then it doesn't matter about the $75,000. Sometimes the Office of State Procurement will still work that bid. You have sole source, which is pretty much on a state level. That's, sole source for the state of Arkansas, that's almost on the level of profanity. I talked to my boss one time and I said, sole source. And he said, no. I said, but he said, no. I said, but I need to talk to you about, and he said, no. So you won't see very much sole source because it raises too many questions as to why you gave that job or that order to one company and one company alone. So those are very rare. And then you have special procurements. One of the things with the virus, with COVID-19, is the state has had to do some things that were out of the ordinary. And special procurements, those are those instances where, you just can't go through a normal process because of the urgency of the matter. You just got to move and you have to get it done. So those are the overall things so far as the state. And then this is just a slide. I won't spend some time because it has some repetitive information on it. But on the chart, if it's a small order or purchase, look, I can knock that out on a phone call. I'm finished before the day's over. If it's quote bids, I can email, phone call, but still I can knock that out in a couple of days, maybe 3 days. If it's an invitation for bid, the process takes a little bit longer. You're talking a minimum of 5, maybe to 21 days longer, just depending on what's going on and how in-depth that invitation for bid is going to be. And then the request for proposal, again, those are much more in-depth. Sometimes those can stretch out a little bit longer because the requirements are much more stringent or there's a lot more requirements. But I guess the reason I'm sharing this slide with you is be very patient, because the higher in dollar amount you go, the more complicated the process is going to be. And I would just be patient, be diligent, and understand things don't always move at the speed we like them. All right, so for a state procurement process is really quick. When you look at them, must and shall, must and shall. If you see a must and a shall, you need to pay attention. You need to sit up in your chair, read that thoroughly. And again, you have to look for changes in different bids. The pricing range must be in ink. Signatures on state bids must be in ink when they do those processes. If you fail to submit the required documentation, then your bid's going to be disqualified. I think one of the saddest conversations I ever had was with someone who lost $83,000. And guess why? Just one little line that said signature, $83,000 gone, and I had to call him and tell him, you don't get it. And I mean, I had no leeway. That's not, make sure everything's signed, make sure everything's filled out. Look, if it doesn't apply, okay, here's the rule. If something doesn't apply and there's a blank there, eliminate, alleviate questions and just put NA in it and move on and make sure that your bids, and again, the only other thing on this slide, read, and read some more. Bid delivery on time. bid opening, it's public, so you can ask for a copy of the bid tab. The evaluation, you have to be responsible and responsive. They're going to have an ATA, which is about 14 days, where they try to make it, you have a window of opportunity if you want to protest. So that's what those things are for. However, understand this, because the needs of the state of Arkansas, sometimes they can go ahead and put that as an award. And you'll go ahead and have a process whereby you can protest, but they're just trying to move things along and not so they'd be stagnant. Okay, here's the thing, and we're right at 10 o'clock, and some of you are still awake and hear the sound of my voice, and others are dreaming of things, I don't know, fishing, camping, having dinner with your family. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the federal procurement processes, and here's why. The SBA has done an excellent job over the last several weeks. Every Thursday they've had an introduction to government contracting. It was a wonderful class. I tuned in myself, and micro purchases, simplified acquisition processes, sealed bidding, contract by negotiation. Some of those things that the terms are similar to what the state processes are. And I would be more than happy, if the other counselors, we'll make sure that you understand what that process is and how that's going to work. But I encourage you, as the SBA offers those courses each week, please take advantage of those. And there's a wide variety of subject matter. But, those are the procurement processes there. And then so far as the contract types, I'll go ahead and go through this, and then we're getting close to the end. With the state of Arkansas, you have a firm contract and you have a term contract. A firm contract is merely a purchase order. In other words, it's a one-time thing, and then that's it. It'll always start with $45,000 as the numerical designation on the contract or the purchase. If it's a term contract, that can be a year up to 7 years. And then that will start out with a designation numerically of $46,000. That's how you can tell a purchase order, one-time buy, from a contract, which will use the $46,000 designation. With the federal government, you have indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. And again, sometimes the processes are similar. And again, definite quantity, requirements and contracts, where you're going to have an ongoing type thing. The state uses statewide contracts to accomplish some of those same things, where they don't know how many, or they don't know how often they're going to have that requirement. Time, materials, and labor, pretty much, I think that speaks to itself. Incentive, supplies and services to get that lowest cost. Fixed price, economic price, incentive contract, payment of allowed incurred cost. And here's the thing, some of this you won't need to know as in depth until you find a solicitation, and maybe there's some areas that you need to really hone in on and understand what they mean or what it means to you. Firm fixed price, and I'll use that as an example before I go on. Firm fixed price, it means once it's set, it's over. No increases, no negotiation. Firm fixed price, you bid, they accept your bid. That's the way it's going to be. That's why it's so important to read and know. You have some basic order agreements that are not necessarily would be considered in the contract realm. You have a blanket purchase agreement. And again, the federal government and the state government has a multitude of processes whereby they make sure that whatever they need, whenever they need it, there's a vehicle whereby they can use it to get that product or to get that service. So far as certifications, and again, I'm just going to go through these last few areas because I know, anytime we're in a webinar, there's a lot of information. So let me just go through these. So far as the state has a minority and women-owned business certification. Listen, I encourage you, if there's a certification that you're eligible for, even if you decide not to do it, I encourage you to look into it. And so many things that it's an advantage is, in certain cases, again, remember the state fee for vendor registration, it can be waived. That's a good thing. That's saving you money. The state of Arkansas does not have quotas. The state of Arkansas has goals. And one of the things is to do business with minority and women-owned businesses. And you can help them out by becoming certified. You can help them out by contacting the Arkansas Economic Development Commission and being listed on their website. So far as those minority and women-owned businesses, But again, those are the categories that the state of Arkansas recognizes. So again, check into certifications, see if you qualify. And again, it's the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. If you contact Miss Karen Castle, she was actually with us last week, gave us an excellent presentation on that. So she is just wonderful and she's happy to help you. And again, there's an office somewhere that they will help you with whatever it is that you might be interested in to include certification. There's also a disadvantaged business enterprise certification through the Arkansas Department of Transportation. Again, you need to go to the website, just look over pretty much the requirements and the stipulations. You know, a lot of that might be in the line of construction and maybe those areas, but check it out just to make sure. And again, you have the link, you'll have it in the slide. You have the basic requirements up there, how to qualify. And then again, they're looking at ways to help minority and women-owned businesses. So this is another certification or area you can look at. Remember too, as of July 15th, we had a major change. In the past in SAM, you could self-certify as a woman-owned small business. You can still do that in SAM. However, you have to certify as a woman-owned small business. So you have to understand you have until October, the middle of October, to complete that. The system has had some hiccups, you might say, where people will get to a certain point and it locks up. I'd encourage, again, new system, new process, be very patient. You can always contact us. It's an SBA site, but again, there's so much going on. The SBA, God bless their heart, I mean, they're up to their eyeballs just trying to help people and keep businesses vibrant and stable. So be patient with them, and they may refer you back to us, but that's okay because we're all a part of a team. So be patient with them because they have a lot of things they're trying to take care of. You can be certified as a small disadvantaged business, as a woman-owned business. You can also look at 8A certification. You can look at Hub Zone certification. Again, go out there, do your homework, look at these things. And just look for, okay, what advantage is there and what's it going to cost me? If it's just time and paperwork, it may be well worth your while. Okay, to be a service disabled veteran-owned small business or a veteran-owned small business, pretty much it is an SBA program per se, so far as legalities, but the system of verification is handled by the Veterans Administration. So Vets First, again, it's just a different registration. This is probably one of the more complicated registrations because they require so much documentation to validate who you are, what you are, and to include, that you qualify for their program. And again, would be more than happy to help you out. All right, and then so far as really quick, the advantages, so far as those different certifications, a lot of times there's a set aside, and you can see the chart on my screen. Set asides for women-owned small business, set asides for small disadvantaged businesses to include 8A certified, and 8A certification is based on socio or economic factors. Look into that if you think you might be eligible. Hub zone depends on where you're located and if that area has been designated as a hub zone. And hub, historically underutilized business area or zone. And then again, the service disabled veteran-owned small business or the veteran-owned small business. And you see the percentages of what they try to set aside each year. That's their goals, to set aside a certain amount of contracts for those businesses that fit those categories. All right, resources available to you. And look, we're almost, listen, there's light at the end of the tunnel. All right, I know probably tonight when you go to sleep, you're still gonna have this guy's voice ringing in your head. I would just encourage you, take medicine or something and it'll go away. All right, so here we go. Resources available to you. There's some resources according to the state. The state has a list of buyers for all the procurement agencies or all the procurement buyers. You also have a wonderful site called Arkansas Transparency. Arkansas Transparency, you can go look up state employee salary. That's always a fun one. But the more important thing is you can go and research contracts. You can research your competition. You can research old contracts. It is a wonderful vehicle for research and to understand how much money or revenue may be out there for you to gain. And again, we'll help you navigate that and show you the ins and outs of how that program works. And If you would like that list of procurement buyers for the state of Arkansas and the agencies, just let us know and we'll get that to you also. Govology is a program that we have. It is something as a PTAC client, you are privileged to be a part of. We have a code. All those courses are $75 a piece, unless you're a PTAC client, and then they're for free. So you can take an hour and a half, usually of good quality training, concentrated on federal government procurement processes, certifications. So if you are a PTAC client, you're eligible to take those courses. We'll give you the coupon code. And if you're not a PTAC client, I encourage you to sign up right now. Well, not right now, just wait, till we're done, but, sign up. And then again, and this is kind of a summation, and some of them are new. I talked to you about the Arkansas Small Business Technology Development Center, about the Secretary of State's office, the SBA, PTAC, Department of Commerce. Look, you won't know unless you contact them and see if they have something that might be helpful. You have another organization, which is a partner of the SBA, SCORE. Again, go look at their website, see what different helps they can provide. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of agencies that can help you. All right, and then you have your PTAC team. All right, and we have, just as a reminder, we have PTAC Day coming up, and I think Miss Melanie's going to share some stuff with us here in a little bit. And then here we go. I always like to leave you with a thought, all right, a thought. And you have to understand this, I'm from North Carolina, pretty simple thinking, so I have to Google a lot of thoughts to provide them to you. But here's one I found for you, okay? Nothing is easier than saying words. Nothing is harder than living them day after day. So here's the thing, you as a small business, okay, conversation costs nothing. But if you're gonna live it out every day as a small business, man, that's tough. That's hard. You have to make sacrifice. But listen, you can do it. We're here to help you, and so are a lot of other agencies. So we encourage you, stay diligent, stay, on top of all those tasks that you need to complete. And sometimes it may seem insurmountable, but you can do it. Just stick with it, and stay in the ball game, so to speak. All right, so it is about 10:15 thereabouts somewhere. So any other questions that I can answer for you before we try to close it up? I think Miss Melanie would like to share with you a few things.
So a couple of things, Tim, and I would encourage the rest of you, while we're hitting these couple of talking points, to go ahead and drop any questions you have in the chat box. I've kind of addressed this one on the online chat, but I just want to hit on it. Lillian says, who would be my PTAC counselor for Cleveland County? I am looking to be their new PTAC best friend. I need help. So what I've responded to that, but the broader question is, I do just want to remind you all that every one of our 5 counselors does engage on one-on-one counseling, and that can be on a one-off basis or an ongoing basis. So, if you want to engage with us for that type of work, or re-engage if you already did, just again, you can just make a note in the chat box like Lillian did, and somebody will reach out to you within 24 hours. That's what we're here for. And then let's see, there was another, okay. So Brian and Rachel just said, I am a PTAC client. I'm interested in the Govology courses. So Brian, we will get with you privately and make sure you do get that code. Anybody else that wants it, let us know. And before I turn it over to, well, when Melanie gets on the line, she's going to remind you the best ways to get in touch with us. But our phone number is 671-2390. You never can go wrong with that. That looks to me like that is all of the questions right now. So I would like to go ahead and introduce you all to Melanie Berman. Melanie is the program manager for Arkansas PTAC, and she's just going to give you an overview of what we can do and some of the great events we have coming up next month.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. And Tim, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I do want to share real quick just a few of our upcoming trainings. Let me go ahead and start this. And so coming up, we are celebrating all the procurement technical assistance centers once a year. This year it'll be on September 16th. So from 1 to 2 p.m., our National Association of PTACs is hosting just a fun webinar and celebrate all the PTAC clients around the U.S. We have the Little Rock Regional Chamber also once a year. There's a Minority Enterprise Development Week, or Med Week, and we will send you all this information afterwards, along with a survey about this class. But I provided the link to the Little Rock Chamber, and there are several events the week of September 14th through 19th. So make sure if any of those appeal to you and you're a minority-owned business that you take advantage of all those free events. Part of that is going to be the Arkansas Economic Development Commission hosts a minority and woman-owned matchmaking event. There will be several state buyers there as well as federal buyers. And of course, all these events are going to be held virtually this year due to COVID. And so that one's going to be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. They will have some keynote speakers. They will have a few other panels, I believe, and then a lot of matchmaking. And then some of the PTAC hosted events that we're putting on, such as this one, we will go over the changes to the Woman-Owned Small Business Federal Contracting Program. We are going to bring in a guest speaker from the Arkansas Small Business Administration to go over the changes to that program recently. And that will be on September 24th from 2 to 3 p.m. And again, it will be hosted virtually. Similar to this, we're going to be doing it via Zoom. And then we have a SAM, System for Awards Management. That was a certification that Tim has referenced in his presentation. Deborah is going to teach that class, and that's really going to be a step-by-step how to register in STAM. And then also, if you need to renew, she's going to go over that as well. So those are the upcoming trainings that we have. And then I also wanted to highlight again, Med Week. Hopefully you guys can see this. Again, I will email this to you. But as you can see, there are several events that week for minority-owned businesses. Some of them are hosted by the Chamber, some are hosted by the Arkansas Small Business Technology Development Center. They're partnering with some of the historically Black colleges here in our state. And then looks like the Mexican consulate's also putting on some for the Hispanic business owners. And so just keep in mind, take advantage. I mean, we're all here to support the small business community, and we want you to learn everything that you can. I've included the contact of Brandon Campbell here, and he is the Director of Small Business and Inclusion with the Little Rock Regional Chamber. I don't believe you have to be a member in order to attend these events, so keep that in mind. And with that, I just want to say thank you. And don't forget, you can reach out to any of your counselors directly. Our website is uaex.edu/PTAC. You can find all of the staff phone numbers and emails there. Our office phones are rolling over to our cell phones as we're still not back at the office right now. So just keep that in mind, and thank you so much. And it looks like the contact slide is now back up on the screen. So we appreciate you coming. Let us know if you need anything else.